Chapter 2. The Graybolt Tower is not located on the Strip. It sits in an area that, in the early days, was home to some of Las Vegas's shadiest dealings. It sits next to a dark avenue where teen runaways once mingled with drug addicts and seasoned hookers. In the many strip clubs, dollar bills rained down on the girls working the pole. Drugs flowed faster than the Colorado River heading into Lake Mead. Some people said that Brian Graybolt was a genius for buying in an area where the property was still inexpensive. Other people said that the only reason Graybolt wanted the hotel built in that location was so he could be close to his element. Graybolt stood in the middle of his penthouse office and slowly began turning full circle. He stopped and looked out the window. A slight smile appeared on his face as he admired the LV Tower of America. The project began over 10 years ago. Now, completion of the construction came down to the finishing touches. It is a replica of Dubai's famous sail-shaped hotel, the Burj Al Arab. Graybolt insisted that the hotel be at least 10 meters taller than the original. He also insisted on having a pillow menu with at least 20 types of pillows for the guests to choose from, and at least several 3-star Michelin chefs running the restaurants. Graybolt shuffled his feet, doing a strange little dance of delight, and then he continued to turn. The gleeful smile faded from his face and was replaced by a look of anger. In the distance, he could see the Green Gate Hotel. It was dimly lit, and some of its faded green windows were missing. The Green Gate, one of Graybolt's biggest failures, brought back memories of the 2008 real estate crash. It was 80% complete when all construction ceased. It now sat in a field of weeds littered with broken beer bottles and the discarded possessions of the homeless. After the real estate crash, Graybolt tried rebuilding the unfinished property several times. Deals with contractors and agreements with the city fell through. This left him stuck in expensive court battles. If he hadn't insisted on being such a prick, most of the battles could have been avoided. Graybolt slammed his fist on the call button. Liza Lang and Arnie Smith just about tripped over themselves, rushing into the room. Liza moved in close to her boss, and Arnie kept his distance. Graybolt placed his hand on Liza's ass and let it linger. He then dismissed her from the office. Liza felt fortunate. Being Graybolt's personal assistant caused her a lot of stress and personal humiliation. She got off easy this time. "So, Arnie, come over here." Graybolt walked over to the window and tapped his hand against the glass. He could see Arnie's reflection. "What a pathetic fuck," he thought to himself. "Arnie, look over there. Do you see what I see?" Arnie didn't need to look. The Green Gate was an impossible situation. It needed to be imploded. Squatters lived for free on the property, and the desirability of the location had changed over the years. The feasibility of having a luxury hotel in that location was certainly questionable. He absolutely knew Graybolt wouldn't like his recommendations. He also knew that his boss's actual concern was not the property. It was Graybolt's ego. Arnie had analyzed the situation thoroughly. Now that the court proceedings had ended, selling would be the best option. He did the math, and Graybolt stood to lose over $2 million. Graybolt had bragged many times that he had never lost money on any of his many investments. Arnie knew that his boss's claims weren't true, but they couldn't be proved wrong. Selling the Green Gate would be of public record, and the numbers would be indisputable. "So, Arnold, take your head out of your ass and tell me what you think." Arnie answered carefully. "Sir, if we were to sell the property now, we could minimize our losses." Brian Graybolt interrupted. "You're fired. Get the hell out of my office." Arnie froze, almost not comprehending what he had just heard. With trembling knees and the feeling of nausea in the pit of his stomach, Arnie mumbled something indecipherable. He stood like a deer in headlights. Thoughts of impending financial devastation and of losing his home reeled in his mind. When Arnie accepted the job with Graybolt Enterprise, he knew there were risks involved. He remembered hearing the tales of top staff members being fired on a whim. He also knew that once Graybolt terminated you, he made sure that no other firm would rehire. Graybolt had a smile on his face when he pressed the call button. Liza quickly entered the room. "Miss Lang, please call security and have them remove this piece of shit from my office." Liza promptly made the call. Arnie walked out of Graybolt's office feeling like a broken man. Before he could return to his own office, Lance Rizzer, head of security, stepped in front of him. Of the many documents Arnie had signed upon employment, One of them stated that, upon termination, the employee was to leave the premises immediately. As Lance Rizzer escorted Arnie to the elevator, Arnie wanted to cry. He now wished that greed hadn't overcome him when Graybolt offered him a position that paid twice as much as other, more reputable employers. Liza waited for her boss to excuse her. Graybolt moved his chair close to the window and positioned it so he would have a spectacular view of the LV Tower of America. He leaned back, relaxed, and then pointed at Liza. He moved his finger in a way that suggested that she come to him. Liza obediently stationed herself in front of her boss and kneeled.